Ramdev's company Patanjali proposed, or in fact came up, or claims to have come up with a cure for COVID. Well, soon enough, the Modi government responded saying this shouldn't happen, that there has been a lapse and these kind of claims shouldn't quite be made. Well, what is this controversy about? What is the company which, as we know, sells Ayurvedic products? What is it claiming? How has it come up with this cure? And what is the government's objection to it? On what grounds? Is what we're going to find out in this live episode of Government Matters with me. Do send in your questions. Abantika Ghosh is in the studio to answer them. She, as you know, tracks health for ThePrint. So Abantika, let's go back to yesterday when Patanjali did this grand press conference claiming it had found a cure to COVID. What did it claim? What has it found?
So it said that there is now a cure for COVID. It's called Coronil, and they said all the tests at the trial has been done as per protocol, and what it showed is that 69% people recovered within 3 days, and what is very important and what Ramdev has repeatedly said on various television channels is that in 7 days there is 100% cure. So that these claims are very, it set the standards very high, and obviously because there are no treatments right now, there are no medicines, there are so many medicines that are being tried across the world,
right,
in Oxford, in various
Absolutely.
places.
Scientists across the world
world are racing each other literally. So this announcement basically has created a lot of buzz, and so also they say that we've done all the trials, we have done everything that requires to be done. There was a sample size which they later said of about 120 people. That's what the claim, because they have also now shared the clinical trial. So there is something called the Clinical Trial Registry of India, where you have to register every clinical trial that happens in the country. So they have shared the documents of that registration, where they have laid out the protocol, how many subjects, where it will happen, how it will happen, who's the principal investigator. All that information has to be shared with CTRI. They have done all that. That form has now been shared. So yeah, that's what the claim is.
So now immediately the Ayush Ministry reacted, saying such claims shouldn't be made. On what is the government's objections, and on what grounds are they objecting?
The government is objecting on the grounds that the results, whatever the trials were, they were not validated by the government. They were not, the study results were not shared with the government. Also, there is something called the Drugs and Magic Remedies Objectionable Advertising Act 1954. It's a very old act, which lays down that you cannot claim magic cures, kavach, anything of that sort. Some mantra, kavach, anything. You cannot claim that as a cure, and you also cannot advertise drugs for certain. There are certain specified scheduled diseases in that act. You cannot advertise those drugs, and you cannot advertise drugs for things for which there are no medicines available. And COVID obviously comes under that, and there is also now. The government had, in April, had actually written to state governments also to see that no such claims are made.
Right.
So that has already, so COVID is very much a part of this. Even if it's a new disease, it's not in the schedule.
Right.
But it qualifies as a disease with no cure because you cannot advertise, and B, it's now there because there is this notification, so already it's covered in the act. So the government says that this should not have been done because this comes under this act. However, there have been some developments since yesterday. The Ayush Minister Shripad Naik told ThePrint that this is a good thing. Why is there so much approach? This is a good thing. We are just looking at the things at whatever details they have. They did not follow the rules. That's all. But
the intent wasn't wrong.
The intent wasn't wrong. Yeah. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing that they have done this for the country. So and just a while back, the Uttarakhand government has said that they have been given a license to sell this product, but they can't sell it as a COVID cure. They have to sell it
immunity booster.
As an immunity booster, not as a COVID cure.
Right. So I'll come back to this question of immunity booster a little later, Abantika. But just before that, to tell our viewers, as Abantika mentioned, do log on to our website, theprint.in, to read Ayush Minister Shripad Naik's interview to the Prince Neelam Pandey, who covers the BJP for us, and also log on to our website to read a detailed explainer on what this Magic Remedies Act is, done by our legal correspondent Apurva Mandhani. So Abantika, there has been this entire conversation around immunity boosters since COVID, the COVID crisis exploded. Now the government itself has focused on immunity boosting. The Ayush Ministry's concept is entirely around traditional forms of medicine. So how does that sort of fit into this entire picture?
Government actually had at one point of time brought out remedies specifically for COVID. That this happened sometime in February, and the Ayush Ministry, after there was an uproar, the Ayush Ministry was forced to withdraw that statement and then say that these are immunity boosters, and there are all kinds of things, Ayurveda, homeopathy, all of, and there's one particular thing, if I remember, arsenicum album. It was a homeopathy drug, which I think some state governments even are using now. So this immunity booster is something that is very typical, it's I think very unique in a sense to the Indian systems of medicine, to alternate systems of medicine, where they say that, especially in Ayurveda, they say that they look at the constitution, the kind of body you have, and then they decide which medicine would work for that kind of body type.
So more customized.
More customized. That's what they say, that it's personalized. It's way more modern than modern medicine, because it takes into account what your specific condition is, how your body reacts, how your metabolism is. But there is also the concept of immunity booster in allopathy, because a lot of doctors, who are frontline workers, they are themselves, I know for a fact, they are having zinc, they are having vitamin C. There is a whole lot of controversy about whether vitamin D works in COVID or does not work in COVID. But the entire thing of vitamin C, zinc, is not zinc, but vitamin C is about immunity boosting.
Right.
So it's not something that's unique in that sense.
This alternative form of
to alternate medicines.
Right. So let's start taking a few viewer questions, Abantika. There is a question from Ravi Yadav. Can we say that this was more of a marketing stunt than a durable cure, and it was done just to profit the Patanjali organization as a whole? Obviously,
we cannot make such sweeping statements, but what we can say is that the fact that this press conference was about to happen, that was known for over 24 hours.
Right.
And the government, if it had to issue these notices, if it had to stop it, it had all the time. Because if it was not done, if it was not as per rules, if it was violating a particular law in the country, that press conference could have been stopped.
Right.
That did not happen. That is the factual position.
Right. R. Thankappan, Ramdev mentioned that the medicine has been tested on patients. Can you please elaborate how did he carry out such tests without prior permission from the government?
He did not, at least by the documents that he has submitted, he did not carry out these tests without the permission of the relevant authorities. So I am holding in my hand the Patanjali reply, which is where they have basically attached the registration form that they have with the clinical trial registry of India, where they have given how many patients they are going to test this on, where they will test. The tests happened at the National Institute of Medical Sciences. In the print today, there's a story by my colleague Himani Chandna, where she mentions that these tests were carried out. Initially it was supposed to be 120, which is what they have said at the clinical trial registry, but 5 patients backed out. So there were 45 patients who were put on this medicine, 50 patients who were the control, and of these, from these they have come to these figures of 3% of 3 days, 69% recovery, 7 days, 100. Interestingly, in the control group, in the 3 days, there was 50% recovery. So I do not know if that's actually a significant difference. 50% and 69%, though 100% is
a big figure.
Is a big figure.
Right.
But also, a lot of patients on their own do turn negative. So from the time you've got the disease, if 50% patients turned negative in 3 days, so a lot of patients do turn negative after
on their own.
On their own,
especially those who are asymptomatic.
So, and that is the entire purpose of a randomized control trial where you see whether the control and the thing and the trial group are reacting significantly differently to say that yes, this medicine works. That is not clear. This sample size A is too small.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. I mean, sample size of 120 really is
actually sample size of 45.
45, right. So it's very tiny. It doesn't really tell us anything.
No, it doesn't tell us anything. Also, a very important thing in any such study is peer review. That is one of the sort of filters that all medical journals use.
Right, absolutely.
Who has peer reviewed this? We do not know.
Right. Satadal Sengupta, is the government likely to hold people accountable? You know, now given how Patanjali has flourished over the last few years, and not trying to make any insinuations, but just given how powerful it is now as an organization, as a company, is the government likely to take action?
So right now they have shared a reply to Patanjali saying that yes, we have received your documents that you have submitted and we will go through them. That's all it says. But if the way the minister is speaking and the fact that the Uttarakhand government has already given a license, I think it's very unlikely that some meaningful action will happen.
So Abantika, if this coronal hits the stores, is available on Patanjali stores, now clearly people have already watched the press conference. Everybody, in fact, you know, there's a thin line between people thinking of it as a cure or as a prevention, because that kind of awareness is also a bit of a problem.
Right.
So unless the government stops it from being sold, we've let something loose now, you know. I mean, then you've unleashed something where you don't know. People will just go around consuming, assuming they're getting cured or nothing's going to happen to them.
Right. But if the government wanted to stop it from being sold, the license wouldn't have been issued.
Right.
If the license has been issued, then on what grounds are you going to stop it?
Right.
You know, you can go out and see if the label actually says that this is a cure. Maybe it doesn't, maybe it does, I don't know. But then that is the sole room you've left for yourself,
right,
to go and act against Patanjali, because you've said it's just an immune booster, it's not a cure.
Right.
So even if when they're selling it, the salesperson is saying this is a cure.
Absolutely. Well,
you have no way.
In a press conference, they've said it, so the message has gone down.
The message has gone out. It doesn't matter now.
Right. There's a question from Tejas. Was the Ayush Ministry notified about this medicine and testing? I think you've answered that already. Urmila, not only Ayurveda but homeopathy has also come up with many such immunity boosting medicines. Is it advisable? Well, I know you're not a doctor, but what are doctors saying?
Doctors say that take whatever you want to say, keep washing hands, wear mask, take all precautions, practice social distancing, do whatever you want to do whatever you have faith in. There is nobody can say it's your personal choice. But do not trust it enough to let go of these measures.
Right. Jaswant, why do alternative medicines not have proper regulations like allopathic medicines do?
So there is a lot of controversy. So right now we are trying to regulate this, where there's a pharmacopoeia that's coming up. We are doing a lot of stuff here. But this is something that has gone on this, you know, traditional knowledge thing. So the idea of regulation is very new. There is a lot of resistance. Also, one thing that alternative medicine practitioners always say, that you cannot use the standards of modern scientific Western standards on us. We have our own standards. We have our own books where people have, these are big people who have written these books, and if they have written something, who are you to question? So that, I think, there is the lack of regulation is also about this gray area, that what happens, should, for example, this particular drug, it talks about a randomized control trial, but a lot of the medicines that we use currently, Ayurveda medicines, they are medicines that have just come down the generations. There has been no. So now, if you have to take all of those out of the market and do trials, the system will collapse. So I think that's the basic issue.
There's a difference between how you can regulate alternative forms of medicine and allopathy.
Yeah.
Right. Kripesh, people have been consuming homemade products and herbs to boost immunity. Why then question Patanjali? Well, I suppose the question is because they've claimed to find a cure.
And also it's commercial.
Yeah.
You're Your homemade remedy is for yourself. You're not selling it.
Right. So you're not misleading
It's a
people
commercial
into believing
venture.
anything.
You're buying this medicine for 500 rupees. So that's
Right.
the difference.
Varuna, why are we usually questioning or showing disbelief in Ayurvedic medicine? Is it some sort of conspiracy to downgrade this branch of medicine? So I think there is now a lot of conversation around how allopathy has not been able to sort of find a credible cure for COVID or a credible prevention. So why not look at these alternative forms of medicine?
Yes, certainly. Look at them. But look at them through the same lens as you're making the allopathy drugs go through. If an allopathy vaccine is going to take 12 to 18 months, even if we talk about coronal as an immune booster,
right?
If it has done it in 7 days, it's great, or whatever days, it's great. But then you have to look at it through the same lens. That's
right.
all.
Right. Pranay, is there a possibility that the drug has some positive impact in combating COVID? Now, that is also, it's a valid question. But it is, what if there is should the government even look at exploring research around it?
Yeah, government should first subject this to peer review, see what has happened, look at the contents. For example, they have listed all these contents in the reply to the government, ashwagandha, giloy, tulsi, anu taila and all this.
Right.
So they should look at all this, send this to people who know this, people who are experts in the field.
Right.
And then there's no harm in looking at an immune booster from whichever system of medicine.
Right.
But it should work, and it should not, and the most important thing in medicine is if it may or may not work, but it should not harm.
Right. So that is very important.
Side effects. It doesn't say anything in this about side effects.
And anyway, a sample of 45 people, you wouldn't really even know the side effect as credibly as.
Right.
Right. So I'll take one last question, Abantika. Anshul Tiwari, according to the World Health Organization, it usually takes 1 or 2 years to fully test a new medicine, specifically one related to cure of COVID-19. The question is, how did Baba Ramdev manage to test it in a few weeks?
That's exactly the question we are asking.
And I think that's the objection everybody has besides the other factors as well.
Yeah.
Well, Abantika, thank you so much for explaining this entire controversy around the Patanjali's claims of having found a cure for COVID. Thank you so much for sending us your questions. Don't forget, we have an off the cuff this evening at 6:30 p.m. where our editor-in-chief Shekhar Gupta will be in conversation with Uday Kotak, CEO of Kotak Bank. You can watch it on our YouTube channel. Stay tuned.